welcome aboard Dropkick Basement for another episode here. Late part of July. Summer months are hot, and I am your host here, Mike Madden. One half of the dastardly duo that pervades the Dropkick Basement, my tag team partner and cohort, Tommy Schultz. Tom, sweltering one here in July. How are you feeling?
Sweating my ass off, but I am very excited because we are talking about something I am very passionate about today.
You've wanted to do an episode about hardcore and deathmatch wrestling for quite some time.
Yes.
And we're going back to our Dream Team concept, where we ranked 12 through 1, with the most emphasis being on the starting 5, just like the Dream Team from the 1992 Olympics with the NBA players. So this is our second Dream Team, following up from our Dream Team of luchadors, and we have the perfect bench coach to guide us along for this ride through hardcore wrestling, deathmatch wrestling, and the wild characters that pervade it. We have returning from last week's gripping interview. We have the man whose his catchphrase was "Hardcore is a way of life." You could have bought it on a shirt in Cornelia, Georgia, in 2000 and 2001. Our very good friend, Crazy Charlie Saunier, a.k.a. White Trash, a.k.a. my friend Chuck, back on the show. Crazy Charlie, welcome back to the basement, my friend.
Always an honor to be here in the basement. I am glad that the floor already has plenty of stains on it, because the amount of blood we are about to bleed can only be contained in buckets. In buckets,
you're right. You got that. You got that right. I still have this cough, by the way, so I apologize if anybody hears me cough. I'm just going to be coughing up the blood of a hard-fought death match. So, Tom, you're a death match. You would probably rank as our deathmatch and hardcore aficionado. All of us have experiences of it. What makes you? I mean, you've been obviously you go to a lot of indie shows. Or you went to a lot of indie shows, like in the heyday of some of these the companies that we're going to talk about. But where's your brain wired in when it comes to hardcore and deathmatch wrestling?
So I think what truly got me into hardcore and deathmatch wrestling in general is the heyday of deathmatch wrestling in particular really hit around the time that the backyard wrestling era of like all those videos dropping started to come out. And that was when myself and my friends were backyard wrestling ourselves.
Sure.
So it was at first it was a way for us to be like, oh, well, maybe we don't have a ring. Maybe we don't have referees. Maybe we don't have the training to do all this stuff. But I have a trampoline, and we can steal light bulbs from the high school. So pretty sure we could be deathmatch wrestlers. And that's where, like, we started watching it more to get ideas for our backyard wrestling stuff. And as I was watching it more, I was like, oh, wow, there actually is, like, an art to this other than just hitting one another with light bulbs or barbed wire or thumbtacks or whatever. And then you get into you start digging into the history of it, where it came from, the stuff that was going on in Japan that I didn't know about until I was older. And those tapes that you watch in the formative years of wrestling, when you're like buying tapes from indie shows and you get like the best of Barbed Wire, which is just all in Japanese.
Yep.
You don't know who half these guys are. but there's something captivating about it because you're like, why are people willing? Once you know that wrestling is not a legitimate, like, actual
sport,
and you know that there's a work to it, there's something in the mind state of why would you put yourself through that, and that's what's captivating to me is why do it, and how do you make it seem logical in the sense of like, all right, we have two guys, the whole ring is just barbed wire ropes and light tubes. Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, right.
But they make
seems not
believe.
practical, right?
They make you believe.
Yeah.
And there's just something about that mind state of you're willing to do whatever it takes to win a wrestling match, literally.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Whether it be dying in the ring, which at some point in this podcast we will talk about because I witnessed it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, like, Charlie, this is probably something that, like, I think you can answer to that more directly based on your experience, because we're not going to say, like, you were a deathmatch guy, but you certainly had the hardcore elements in a company that was sprinkling that in liberally with your time with NCW and then later NWA Wildtide, and even before that when you developed the White Trash character, as we talked about in last week's episode. But, like, talk about that from your perspective to sort of, like, answer to what Tom is saying, like, you know, what puts you in a mind frame to say this is what I'm going to do tonight, or this is what I'm going to do for this series of matches?
I think I can actually explain this somewhat succinctly. It was very few and far between references here in United States wrestling to anything that looked like Japanese deathmatch wrestling. As a matter of fact, it was virtually non-existent other than Sabu and just a very, very small cast of characters that were engaging in anything that looked like the tapes you would trade and get from Japan. So for me, it was the visceral in-person experience of seeing my first weapons in a cage match at ECW Arena at Heatwave 95.
Yep.
I accidentally / on purpose went from a fan to a participant as I ran out into the alleyway, grabbed a pallet, brought it back in. The crowd chanted, "Pallet, pallet, pallet." It got in the ring. It never got used, but damn it, it was a striking sign in the middle of the ring there, leaning up against the cage. So It was that night. It was that simple. It was, I experienced my first ever bloodbath with weapons, and the way the crowd reacted to it made me believe this was the way to go. Stole a chair from the ECW arena, threw it in the back of the pickup truck, drove back to Union Beach, New Jersey, started to make my next plot, and then was introducing hardcore, because there was no U.S. deathmatch scene, introducing hardcore to a state that had an athletic commission and didn't allow bleeding. Fellas, it was a long road to go.
That's right. It says the man who was banned from South Carolina. So let's get let's start building this dream team of wrestlers, and we're going to start with the bench. We've got 7 guys on the bench, and then we're going to have 5 starters. So the first name that comes up is one of the modern purveyors of deathmatch wrestling in the United States. Currently can be seen with GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, and a bunch of other indie promotions around the world. Matt Tremont. Tom, I'll go to you first because I think you have the most experience with the highlights of Tremont's career and what would put him in the conversation as one of the best hardcore / deathmatch guys on the current scene and then through the history of pro wrestling.
So, Matt Tremont is typically known as the most decorated American deathmatch wrestler of the modern era. Mm-hmm. He has traveled literally all over the world. He's won every major deathmatch tournament that there is. Yeah. He started in CZW, back in, I want to say like 2008, 2009. And he was immediately referred to as Baby Gage because this was around the time that Nick was going to jail. And he kind of stepped in, and this was a downtime in the CZW Deathmatch era. This is after DJ Hyde bought the company, and things were kind of going downhill in terms of the fan base that they had built for the first 8 or 9 years of the company. They were more focused on guys like Sami Callihan and Adam Cole at the time, and trying to build a more Ring of Honor-esque style, which didn't fit the fan base.
The fan base was still...
That's not what they wanted.
They still wanted bloodlust and a lot more hardcore than...
And so as they were going away from that, Tremont came in where Nick Gage had left off and picked up very quickly.
Sure.
He's one of, if not the only American wrestler to have a singles match with Onita in the last 30 years. An exploding barbed wire match in the Trenton Thunder Stadium, which is insane.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But Matt Tremont he is currently on his third or fourth retirement, which is a typical deathmatch hardcore wrestler trope, as we'll talk about later on. But I mean, Matt Tremont, he is the current GCW Ultra-Violent champion. He's won Tournament of Death. He's won the Tournament of Survival. He's gone to Big Japan. He's gone to Freedoms, IWA Mid-South. Right. All of the major American deathmatch promotions. And although his career is somewhat short in terms of some of the other guys that we're going to talk about on this list, what he's done in the 15 years that he's been around is nothing short of remarkable, especially in the deathmatch scene.
Yeah, I agree. It's a name that comes up a lot. If you see that somebody is going to have a tournament, a hardcore tournament or a deathmatch tournament, wherever it is in the country, his name seems to pop up a lot.
Always.
Chuck, he reminds me.
Go
ahead.
There's one other accolade that I forgot to mention. When Abdullah the Butcher was being inducted into the Deathmatch Hall of Fame, Abdullah the Butcher referred to Matt Tremont as the Black Abdullah the Butcher.
There you go. That's if there isn't a ringing endorsement.
For those who are unaware, Matt Tremont is a white man.
Is very white. So that's I was going to say, like, Matt Tremont, to me, looks wise, and even some of the work wise, I think Matt Tremont reminds me a lot of Tank. He's got a lot of that element. He's got a lot of that, and he does, like, he's got a great fire up. When it comes to, like, he'll be on the selling side and he'll take bad punishment with a million weapons, but then he's got great, like, he's got a great kick out. He's like a 2-count kick out specialist. So, and then again, he's got fire when he comes back, and it's time for him to go home. Grabs the right weapon, or at least puts his body in position the right way to set up finishes extremely well. So I think, and listen, like, for a guy that sort of is tied into deathmatch wrestling, and it's really been the only thing that he has done. It's not like he's somebody that has, a great legacy as a tag team performer or something else. Like, he sort of like lives in that world. So for him to kind of carve that out, literally, through his career, I think that's a testament. And that's where I think that comparison to Tank comes in, where they kind of have that sort of like two sides to a coin parallel in their career and in their sort of their character build, so to speak, I think.
I'll go ahead and say this. This is exactly what Tank would say if he heard you and your description right now. He'd say, those shit birds don't know nothing. But trust me, that's what Tank would say no matter what your opinion was. No, but about Tremont, listen, I had a chance to hang out with Tremont in Cornelia during Tank's retirement tour. I made a couple of different appearances as, his old tag team partner, doing the whole gimmick of I'm in his corner saying farewell as he takes on the biggest of the biggest legends. And Tremont came down to Cornelia and did a really, really nice job. And, it's those very small moments where you were mentioning deathmatch wrestling before, Tom, and like what brings guys to it and what makes them believe so much to want to do it, and to be in the alleyway behind the old Mud Creek School Gymnasium in Cornelia, Georgia, building barbed wire boards with Tremont and Tank as they're getting ready to go out there and massacre each other. Yeah. But to be standing there and laughing and being like, come on, shitbird, make the loops big enough so that fans actually believe it, and just to hear them going back and forth and just the fact that these guys have actual love for each other, and 10 minutes from now, they're going to carry these barbed wire boards out to the ring, and they're going to do everything they can to mutilate and massacre each other's bodies and their own, simply for the entertainment of whatever paying crowd is there and whoever might watch it later on the internet. But yeah, Tremont was a really cool dude to get a chance to spend one night with. I didn't get to hang with him much during his career, but man, he made an impression that one day.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a good story. So moving on to the number 11 guy on our list. And Charlie, this is somebody that you had advocated for, longtime hardcore wrestler. And we say long time, like goes back decades. Gypsy Joe. Predominantly Southern, maybe Southern Independent. I know he was part of USWA, and he may have even been in World Class as an underneath guy, back at the beginning of his career. But when hardcore really hit its coming out party in the mid to late 90s, Gypsy Joe was a guy that was on a lot of. He would be in these multi-man matches, and he would be on a lot of cards, and at the time, he's in his, I guess he's in his late 50s, even into his 60s at that time. He was also a guy that he had gone to Japan, and he had done some tours with Big Japan and FMW too. But you said you had a Gypsy Joe story?
Gypsy Joe is Dan the Dragon Wilson's uncle.
No,
so Dan,
really?
Yes. So Dan the Dragon Wilson is introduced to the wrestling business by his uncle, Gypsy Joe, the toughest son of a bitch to ever live.
Yeah.
Now, as you have told many stories about me, my old roommate, Dan the Dragon Wilson, now the Rev, told me legendary stories about his uncle Gypsy Joe and the fights and the wars and the run-ins with New Jack, especially if you've never seen that one on YouTube. That's maybe the stiffest match in the history of the wrestling industry. Let me lay this on you real quick. So after hearing all the stories of Gypsy Joe, I go to Tullahoma, Tennessee, and I'm going to see Gypsy Joe in his last ever performance after 70 years, I think, in the wrestling ring. And I think that's real. I think that's a shoot. I think he really wrestled 70 years. So, of course, I'm on the list. I'm there. The Revs put me on the list, special guest, And so all of us are coming into Tullahoma, National Guard Armory, hot night, and we're going to meet Gypsy Joe finally, and I'm finally going to get to see the legend wrestle. So before the match, Rev comes and gets me, says, hey, come on out back. I want you to meet my uncle. Hell yeah, man. So I go out back. There's a small circle in the parking lot about 100 feet away from the National Guard Armory. And I walk up, and I just naturally take my place in the circle, and somebody passes me a joint, and I'm like, oh, all right, cool. And I hit the joint. And then the door slams open to the National Guard Armory, and there's music blaring, and somebody goes, Joe, it's your music. And Gypsy Joe goes, hey, you guys don't finish that joint too quick, walks off, goes into the building, all you hear for a solid 90 seconds is things smashing, chairs getting smashed. Like it from outside the building in the parking lot, hearing this, it legitimately sounds like the entire building is going to come back down. 90 seconds, you hear the bell ring a bunch of times, the door comes flying open, music blaring. Gypsy Joe comes walking across the parking lot. He goes, "Hey, you got that joint?"
What a legend. What a maniac.
And that's the night I saw Gypsy Joe not wrestle.
Yeah. You miss
in
his
Tullahoma, Tennessee, because the whole event lasted 90 seconds. However, there was a fan participation strap match that night, and I was high as hell, and I saw a riot break out in Tullahoma, and it might be one of the greatest wrestling shows I've ever been to in my whole entire life. I've never seen heels run out of building as fast as they did from the babyface fans that had those belts, who were told, don't use the buckle end, use the soft end.
Yeah,
and every one of them turned them around and started I've never seen heels be beaten so bad in my life. They actually might have physically run out of Tullahoma. Gypsy Joe, though, calmed everybody down with autographs and pictures after. So that's Gypsy Joe was the toughest son of a bitch ever.
Yeah, and there's the stories. And again, if you watch the Dark Side of the Ring or any of the YouTube videos where New Jack is explaining about how he was trying to kill Gypsy Joe, and Gypsy Joe wouldn't go down.
He would not die.
He hit him in the head with an aluminum bat.
Yeah,
he just kept going.
Yeah. Damnedest thing you've ever seen, but I think that's the other side of it. There's your testament to Gypsy Joe, is that he could still get booked after that and would still be willing to go out there and do that stuff and put his well-being on the line. He was never a marquee guy. He was never a main event. Like maybe he was the main event, depending on how small the territory that he was working in. But he was he was also he had that career resurgence and was on a lot of these cards in the late 90s just based on the fact that he was the toughest guy on your roster and the toughest guy you could bring in for a hot dog and a handshake that would throw himself in the throes of wild wrestling. And we'll move on quickly to number 10, which is the legendary New Jack. As we just mentioned, he had the run-in with Gypsy Joe. He's had run-ins with multiple people. Tom, I'll go to you first. New Jack, your opinion of New Jack's work, his style, and his approach to hardcore, really hardcore and spot wrestling more than anything.
I remember the first time I saw New Jack, I just happened to stumble upon a random ECW pay-per-view on a cheater box. I can't recall which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was the time that he wrestled Mustafa.
Okay, all right. So you're talking like 90, probably 99, I would guess, 98 or 99.
Yeah, 98, 99, right around there, where he tapes him to the table and jumps off the
balcony.
And I was just like, this guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
This guy's out of his fucking mind. And then you just go back and you watch and like at that time I'm not even 10 years old, so I'm WWF, WCW, straight down the middle. They hadn't even really introduced like the hardcore element into the product all that much yet. And so I'm like, this is nuts. And again, then you start renting the tapes, you start watching the matches, and the older I get, I'm just like, this guy truly doesn't give a fuck. Like that's
an understatement too.
That's what made me love him so much. Is he was just like, no, this is not a wrestling match. This is a war.
Yeah,
we're going
fight for survival,
war with one another. And then, I mean, you see the ECW stuff, and then I just remember seeing the free fall,
right,
incident with Vic Grimes, and I was like, oh, he's trying to murder people.
Yeah.
And then you watch like the shoot interviews. I actually I somehow got to go to the roast of New Jack.
Really?
Years later, which is at like the Edison Marriott or something like that.
Okay.
And wound up smoking weed in the back of a U-Haul truck with Prince Nana, which was quite quite a fun night.
It's a hell of a sentence.
I just remember New Jack being up there in a pink pinstripe, like 3-piece suit.
You can say it's a pimp suit. It's a pimp suit.
yeah, I guess it was.
Right.
And the whole time he's just going like, I can't believe that I did all this hitting motherfuckers with shit.
Yeah.
I was just like, that is the epitome of it. But that's why you love him, is because he wasn't trying to dress stuff up.
No.
He was like, granted, I'm not familiar with the older, like the early 90s to...
Oh, like when he was in Smoky Mountain and...
When the Smoky Mountain stuff,
Yeah.
I've seen the promos, but I've never actually like really gone back and like done a deep dive into like when he was kind of in his...
when Jack was an actual tag team wrestler and not just brawl around the building guy. Yeah. No, it's not great.
But, yeah, so that's what I'm saying is like, I never felt the need to go back and find that because New Jack found his place in wrestling, and he was different than everybody else because his music would play the whole time.
Yeah.
That was fucking awesome. And he had the best fucking entrance song.
Right,
So, and he would just beat the shit out of people with anything that you could find in a dumpster.
And I think that's another thing that's a testament to Jack in the sense that, so you've got a hardcore match, a death match, or whatever it may be. It's just a weapon. Bring your weapons. Again, he was one of the 4 participants in the weapons fill cage at Heatwave 95. Yeah. He could have used a pallet, Jack. Just saying.
What should have.
But toasters. He's clubbing people with guitars. He's got keyboards. He's got old video game systems. Yeah, they were doing a lot of that stuff in ECW. Just for like shits and giggles. But that actually, like, what's kind of in a roundabout funny way is that's the type of stuff that when WWF and WCW started to like incorporate their hardcore divisions, that's the type of stuff that they really leaned into. So they're the ones that are like, oh, we're going to have a bowling ball in this match, or we're going to have a wiffle ball bat, or like, something that's sort of like, it's hardcore wrestling, but it's still sort of like there's a yuck behind this. And I think that a lot of that stuff comes from New Jack. So that's why I think he is an important guy to have on this list. Absolutely. Because not only is he unpredictable and a crazy human being and chemically enabled, however you want to call it, it's still, there's kind of a tongue-in-cheek element to a lot of his work. The music playing throughout the whole match again, that was something that was unique to him when the gangsters would have the brawls around the building in the ECW arena. And to be able to, like, that's one of your signatures. The balcony dives, whatever, like, individual spots, the garbage, like hauling the garbage can and throwing that. Everybody does the fucking garbage can. And they've been doing the garbage can for 30 years because New Jack started doing the garbage can stuff more and more in ECW. So I think, like, that's where he certainly is a pioneer, and certainly the type of guy that, like, as you said, once he found what was the most New Jack about him,
what worked,
it stuck with him throughout. So he never went back to having like a regular match or a regular career.
Ever.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now we will pivot once again to Crazy Charlie, White Trash. You and New Jack, not friendly. Do I have that correct?
This is the person on the list that I have the most experience with.
Okay.
And I have been in awe, and I have been actually afraid for my life, both in the presence of the same man, Jerome Young,
Yeah.
New Jack.
Right.
After the Eric Koulos mass transit incident, I think we all are familiar with.
Yep. I wasn't going to bring it up, but yes.
New Jack's first appearance back in wrestling after that was with NCW Wrestling in Cornelia, Georgia.
Okay.
His soon-to-be replacement for Mustafa in the New Gangstas was Ruckus. Ruckus was one of our top guys in Cornelia at the time. So Ruckus was having a problem with some white boys down in Georgia, and he called his friend to come and clean house. Enter New Jack to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the day I meet Jack for the first time. Extremely cordial first introduction. I was very excited to meet him. I was in awe. After all, I tried to give the man a pallet to kill another human being with in Philadelphia. I felt we had a certain brotherhood and kinship already just based on that. So New Jack pulls out a staple gun from his bag, and he says, "Kid, I got this idea. I'm thinking about stapling people, and I want to start that tonight."
Okay.
And I go, "Cool. Me?" He goes, "You." And I go, "Okay." And now here's where it gets crazy, and here's where I get myself fired for the second time in my professional wrestling career. So listen up. Again, immediately coming off the mass transit incident, I say to Jack, "Well, if I'm down on my knees with my hands pinned behind my back and you're going to staple me in the head, how am I supposed to get color?" And he looks at me.
Oh, no.
And he looks at the staple gun, and he looks at me again. He goes, "Kid." And I go, "What? What's the problem? Just go ahead and gig me real quick when you staple me." So again, immediately following the mass transit incident, I give a blade to Jack and say, "Go ahead, carve me up." And he staples me, and I'm telling you, he took better care of me at this moment in this spot than possibly any worker ever had. Again, this is the awe moment. He looked me square in the eye before doing it, and he said, "Last time, are you sure?" And I said, "Please do it." And it was my biggest moment on my biggest show at that point with my biggest name in the business. I was the first worker to get stapled by New Jack. Got color, showed it off, ran away screaming like the promoter told me to. And that was one less white boy New Jack had to deal with from that moment forward. We would be tag partners for a while. When I was injured, they thought of the great idea of, well, the music's going to play the whole time and Jack is going to just beat everybody up. So you just go out there with him and stand on the ring apron. At the end, he'll tag you in, you'll hit somebody with a stop sign, and you guys will stand over the top of him and pin him. So for a short while in my career, I was an unofficial gangsta. I was out there throwing up the X. I mean, I was doing I knew the whole bit, and Jack's hitting me on the ass and telling you, "Good job, kid." And it was a lot of fun until I got involved with the angle with the Blackout, and he was their mentor. Now, my perception of this incident has been clarified over years from other witnesses and people. What I perceived at the Globe Theater in Southwest Atlanta, the SWATs of Atlanta, was that New Jack, after ramming my face into a concrete floor approximately 12 to 15 times, almost breaking my skull and knocking me out in front of approximately 4 paying fans, I had thought perhaps I crossed him or said the wrong thing, or somebody got in his ear that I, needed to be taken down a peg. It would be explained to me over the years that that was just Jack, and he got too deep into the gin and he didn't know where the limit was, so he decided to break a white boy on the floor in Atlanta. No big deal, but I'm going to tell you, fellas, once you see that version of New Jack, you make sure to give him a wide berth for the rest of the time you know him. And I stayed away from Jack after that. I was literally the only person in the wrestling business that I was actually afraid of was New Jack. And I had more than my own evidence and reasons for it. I had seen him beat the ever-living shit out of some of the biggest rednecks in Georgia. in the parking lot while walking in to get dressed to go out to beat the shit out of everybody in the wrestling promotion. I mean, he was real. Everything you've heard, everything you've seen, it was legit. If you were on his good side, man, he was one of the coolest people. He was funny. He was hilarious to be around. He was always coming up with crazy shit to do. But if you got on his bad side, man, you really thought your life was in danger and could be snuffed out in an instant. Jack, though, one of the all-timer.
Yeah, and again, the realism, the realism is part of the reason why he deserves to be on a list like this, and to talk about him in those sentences. So we're gonna move on from Jack to our number 9 slot on this dream team, Abdul the Butcher.
Shit.
Do you want to go right into your Abby style? I mean, you're in Abby's territory.
The last time
for the most part,
I saw Abdullah the Butcher was at Abdullah's house of Chinese food and ribs.
Rest in peace.
Abdullah came over to the table and he said, "Boys, is everything okay?" And we were like, "Yeah, Abby, everything's great." He goes, "No, I mean, you should eat more. Buy another plate of food while you're here."
Yeah.
And we all said, "Yes, Abby. Understood. We'll all buy an extra plate of food while we're here saying hello to you." So the classic worker that Abdullah the Butcher conned us all into buying 2 plates of food at the buffet at his shady-ass Chinese food and House of Ribs restaurant, which I still have the menu for hanging up on my fridge.
You do? All right, good.
A classic day. Abby, truly, listen, where we talked about Jack being real at every moment in every sense, Abby had everyone in the world convinced he was real at every moment, and he might be the best worker of all time, because when Abdullah the Butcher was not in his gimmick and you saw him away from the show, he was the most normal, soft-spoken, easy to get along with guy ever. But we all know the rep and the rules of how he guided his career. When he showed up at your show, he came in the room as Abdullah, not whoever he was before he got there. He arrived in the locker room as Abdullah, and he worked the boys as Abdullah. He stormed through the locker room, pushed 1 or 2 people out of the way, went into a private dressing room, slammed the door, and then everyone was told, if you go in there, he'll kill you. Abdullah might have been the single best worker and carny of all time, because he had every one of the boys worked. He had the promoters worked. He had the staff, the fans. He had every single person worked, and he made a hell of a lot of money off that stupid hamburger bun on his head.
But he comes up on our show a lot. Tom and I talk about Abby. I think we talk about Abby maybe like for the last like 3 or 4 episodes. Scariest wrestler, leaps and bounds scarier than a lot of guys. And I think when it comes to the style that he had in the ring, you know, he's not flashy. He's a 400-pounder. He's not graceful, but man, can he drop an elbow. But when you want to have a high-profile main event, hardcore match or grudge match that you're going to put 2 monsters in the ring and you're going to sell a bunch of tickets, and you need and Abby has been your lead heel for 6 months, because he's not going to stay in a territory for years. He's not like, he was never the type of guy that would go to WWF or go to NWA or WCW and say like, all right, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I'm going to sign a contract. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. He was never that type. He was your main event babyface was going to get into an angle with whoever Abby's manager was, and Abby's bringing him in to like, I'm ridding the wrestling world of Dusty Rhodes, or I'm ridding the wrestling world of the Von Erichs, or somebody in Puerto Rico, Carlos Colon, whoever it may be. You're going even back to the 70s when he's, in and out of Canada, and he's, button heads with the Sheik. And then here comes Abby, and Abby has the squash matches on TV, and you're building to that main event where you have your main event guy against Abby, and it's a brawl all over. It's a walk-in brawl. He's one of the best walk-in brawlers, because it's not like you're getting a guy jogging rope to rope. So that was his bread and butter. And yes, Chuck, you're right. Like, he made a career out of it and made a lot of money walking into a locker room, realizing, hey, even when he got to his older part of his career where he's more of a spot show guy and more of an indie darling, where you're giving him a bag and he's saying, all right, just make sure people leave me alone back here so I can get in my gimmick and I can, make the money that you need me to make and put on the show that you want, scare the people in the crowd. So for that sense and for the style that he worked, like, he certainly is, like, he's going to be on your pantheon of hardcore wrestlers. Maybe not a death match. I don't want to put him in like Abby ain't taking no bumps on fucking a bed of nails. He probably, if he ever did Thumbtacks, like, he might have done Thumbtacks at some point later in his career. But he was more of a cage match guy. He was more of a, you could see him in a barbed wire match for sure. But he was going to, everything was going to stick into small spots that utilized the wire at the ropes. You're holding somebody's face over it. You've got those images that are in like the aftermags through the 80s and the late 70s. Runs in Japan, so he would be in most of the promotions that either Sabu was part of. And so yeah, I mean, for that sort of that otherworldly presence and that otherworldly, like, super attraction, I would say he's like one of those guys you talk about as a super attraction, and especially in hardcore wrestling. So yeah, that's my Abby thought process.
Yeah, and he was the guy that is going to come in. He toughens up your baby face always.
Yeah,
he gets your baby face to be more believable. If you have a guy that's bread and butter, he's going to come in and he's going to get that guy to be in the fans' eyes a tough son of a bitch after the time he comes in and wrestles Abdullah Butcher. And then, as he did a great job of transitioning from doing that in the territory days to once the major promotions are not going to be booking him, he's going to the indies. And now if you have a hardcore guy or you have a deathmatch guy in your promotion, you're going to get him over by bringing Abby in.
He's your proving ground. Yeah.
Now he goes from being the massive heel to being the deathmatch or the hardcore legend that's going to make your hardcore guy get over that much more in your promotion.
Yeah. So definitely, I think he fits in really well with this group. The number 8 guy on this, we go back towards CZW and John Zandig. Zandig is a guy that certainly had a reputation, good, bad, or indifferent. But when I think of John Zandig, and again, this is more of the stylistically deathmatch that CZW did. I've never seen a human being take a weed whacker to the back, and I hope I never do again. But also getting hung from goddamn meat hooks is just, it's unbelievable to me. And as you had mentioned before, and we had gotten like the glimpse into it from Chuck's point of view. Jesus, like, just to say, like, to sit in the back and say, all right, what are we doing tonight? And then that's the idea. And it's like, all right, let's go. He's a maniac. And he's a legend for a lot of other, sort of like meme or gif-worthy things in the pro wrestling world. For sure. Jesus and the posing and everything. So give us a little bit of your history with Zandig.
Me?
Yeah, from your CZW going to those Tournament of Death
CZW
shows.
Like growing up, CZW that was my personal indie promotion. That was my favorite one. We would go to almost every show at the arena. And then we'd make the treks out to Delaware to go to the Tournament of Death. Zandig, I think, is this may be arguable, but I think he's the most influential American deathmatch person, maybe not wrestler, but person ever.
Okay.
He in America he modernized what we call deathmatch wrestling now with CCW back in late 99 and early 2000. The first, if I'm not mistaken, the first ever 200 light tube match was the CCW thing, the Cage of Death, which like now that was their like yearly deathmatch blow off.
Yeah, they're WrestleMania.
That kind of every deathmatch promotion has now come to do. And he, I would arguably say, has the two most insane bumps in all of wrestling history, with Sick Nick Mondo at TOD2 and the bump with Joey at Game Changer World. He's literally, he was a construction worker that loved wrestling, was a shitty indie guy, and saw that ECW was kind of going down the tubes and was like, I want to try and fill the hole that this is going to create.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, he did an unbelievable job for the first like few years of that promotion. They were on top of the world.
Oh, for sure.
Going all over the place, traveling to Japan, traveling to Italy. I mean, CCW they were bringing in guys that you couldn't imagine. At like from what they started to where they got to. But he was one of the core four, along with Nick Gage and Justice Payne and Lobo, that started that promotion and took it to like ultra violence. That's a word that they
coined.
They invented, and they really brought deathmatch wrestling to like you had the IWA Mid-Souths, where Ian was kind of doing a version of it, but it was toned down to an extent. And I feel like he made everybody else step their game up to say, if you're going to do deathmatch wrestling, CZW is going to be
leading the way. Yeah.
CZW is going to be the pinnacle, so you better catch up or you're going to get left behind.
Of course. Yeah.
It was the weed eater spot. It was that spot that was sent to me that I was at the time having the earliest of conversations about coming up to New Jersey and getting involved and doing something with CZW. And I saw the weed eater spot and I thought to myself, no, I'm not driving all the way up there for that. No, I got good bookings around here. So that to echo what you said about the influence of that, it was that influential that, here I was, the guy from the Southeast in one of the hottest indies that, hey, this would make sense. Two hardcore guys from the East Coast getting together. And I was like, no. I got my own little hardcore scene down here. I don't know that I'm ready for that. So the CZW stuff was hugely influential, and we were all watching every single one of those tapes. I mean, we couldn't wait to get our hands on them. It would, a lot of times you would say, hey, who do we know from up 85, up 95 somewhere? Tell them to get some tapes and bring them down here this weekend. Huge influence, and it actually stopped me from driving up there and taking a booking.
This is where we should have rewrote history. That would have been, because I had always said to you, if you ever work an indie show in New Jersey, I'm your manager, and I'm bringing you to the ring.
You still are.
Because I wanted to like,
Did you hear me, Janela?
I wanted to, and if that had happened, and then I'm the one who's like, yeah, no, you have to do like an indie show up here, and then you would have like gotten eaten up by a weed whacker or anything in the crazy light tube family. I probably would have felt really terrible that you made that booking, but I think Tom, I think you're right. Like in that sense of like influential, Zandig being the main guy and the owner of the company and the guy that got them. And I think, like, again, there's a hustle style to it. There was a protect your territory mentality that, listen, the hardcore, that moniker of hardcore wrestling, it doesn't just apply to the types of matches you're going to have or the types of weapons you're going to use or the blood spilled or this or that. Hardcore is it's a mentality and it's a mantra. So you have to be a hardcore fan and have to be passionate about what your presentation is going to be. And I think that's really what Zandig's legacy was for a good portion of the 2000s, was that he was the guy he's willing to put himself in those matches and get himself to that point where he's synonymous with that company. You're certainly going to get 100% every single time out in every available opportunity with him. So, so let's move on. Number 7, we're getting closer to our top 5. But number 7 is a Japanese legend, Jun Kasai. Now, my experience with Jun Kasai is a little bit soft. He sort of landed on my radar through that Vice documentary that that showed up maybe in 2017 or 2018, which talked about Japanese hardcore wrestling and Japanese deathmatch wrestling. That, for me, you know, I always thought about the FMWs and even like the beginning of Big Japan, and had seen compilations and matches from those eras in my tape trading days in the 90s. And I really had thought that it's sort of like that shrunk and their worldview was very like narrow. So then you see this documentary and you're hearing the legend of Jun Kasai. And first of all, you take one look at Jun Kasai and you're like, you know exactly what type of wrestler he is.
That guy doesn't know what a headlock is. There's no nuance or scientific about him. His arms are completely wrapped in tape, wrist to elbow tape, scars everywhere, wild hair, and then you're watching him in matches where he's doing spots with cinder blocks, he's doing spots with the casket of chairs or the casket of barbed wire chairs, mouse traps, light tubes, everything under the sun. And it's not like, all right, well, we're working to one big spot with this, where a lot of that's really what the FMW aesthetic was. Yes. You work to the big spot, which has the main weapons. This is bell rings, spots with fucking shit all over the place immediately. The two guys on opposite sides of the ring have 2 light tubes in each hand, and they're swinging them like they're a 6-year-old kid. Just like bonkers banana shit. At the center of it is Jun Kasai, and I think like some of the footage has him and Masada just bludgeoning each other. So all of a sudden I was like, Jun Kasai is on my radar. I need to see more. And the footage is still like, it's scarce. And I know he's done a couple of tours of the U.S., a few times, right around WrestleCon time or for like a Tournament of Death. So he makes our list as sort of he's a wild card in that sense of there's a mystique about him. There's a legendary element to him. He's unlike anything else in modern pro wrestling, I think. And there's a mythos that's out there about Jun Kasai. Chuck, have you seen any of the footage of this stuff?
The mayhem is what makes the magic, and that's really all that you need to know. Like, just put it on and just watch. Mm-hmm. The mayhem will make the magic for you. That's all. That's literally all you need.
Yeah. Tom, Any history with Kasai stateside?
I've been fortunate enough to see him a few times.
Okay.
In person, and he lives up to it every single fucking time. The first time that I ever saw Jun Kasai was 2001. It wasn't in 2001, but it was a match from 2001. I want to say I saw it in maybe 2004, 2005. It was his first American appearance in CZW. It was him and Justice Payne versus Johnny Cashmere and Wife Beater. It was like some weird
Johnny Cashmere.
Yeah, and it's a show called Unfucking Believable, which up to that point was known as the most extreme American deathmatch show of all time.
Okay, all right.
And the four of them beat the ever living fucking shit out of each other, and that got me onto Jun Kasai. And the first match I saw of Jun Kasai in Japan was him versus I can't remember how to pronounce the guy's first name, but something Ito.
Okay.
And they did a razor blade cross match.
Nope. I'm out.
And so they just had styrofoam crosses that were just filled with razor blades. And I'm assuming that that's how he has all those scars on his back.
Yeah.
Because he was just the first spot of the match, he was power bombed into a board of razor blades.
Yeah. Oof.
And I was just like, this guy gets it.
He's special.
This guy knows exactly what I want to see. But yeah, it was just like, it's captivating because he has such little regard for himself.
I know. Yeah.
But I would go out on a limb, and I know that we're going to have another guy higher on this list, but I would go out on a limb to say he is the best Japanese deathmatch wrestler of all time.
Okay.
In terms of deathmatch wrestling. When we talk about modern deathmatch wrestling,
yeah.
This is the guy that you want to see, because he will put on a show for you, whether there's 5 people in the crowd or there's 50,000 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
He is gonna, and I'm pretty sure he just got booked for New Japan to wrestle
New Japan?
Desperado.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
In a hardcore match.
All right.
So like, his legendary status is finally catching up to him, and everyone, because he's been doing it for almost 25 years at this point.
Of course, yeah.
Jun Kasai, I would give him all the flowers. Unbelievable. It's in the deathmatch world. Well, again, as I was saying earlier, with Zandig, with innovation, this was a guy that, whether or not you want to call it innovation or just stupidity, he took things to another level, and it's only getting crazier.
Of course, yeah.
He's an innovator, but he also may go to trial for, like, involuntary manslaughter for one of the matches that happen in the near future.
Yeah, if something goes the wrong way, he's going to be on the wrong side of history. But yeah, no, it's mythological, and it's magic. That's for sure. So we're getting closer to our top hour. Last guy on the bench is, you never want to say that the last guy on the bench may be one of the craziest of all time, but it's Terry Funk. Now, for me, I always rank Funk kind of low on these hardcore, and it sounds like blasphemy. Because Terry Funk's one of the 5 greatest wrestlers in the history of pro wrestling.
Exactly.
Terry Funk is one of my heroes in pro wrestling. Now, I think once we get to the top 5 guys on our dream team, you'll understand reasonings why Funker isn't here. But Funker's the baseline for all of this. All of these guys that we've talked about have, some of them have been in the ring with Terry. Some of them have been inspired by his, especially the later half of his career, where he did become a little bit more wild and was more synonymous with the the brawling all over the building and the weapons and the blood and the barbed wire and so on and so forth. But I do think there's a spirit to it, and when you say the word deathmatch, it's a shortened version of Texas Deathmatch. And that's where, in that Amarillo territory in the 50s and 60s, that's where the concept of a no-holds-barred, lights-out, fight until somebody can't stand matches didn't really involve weapons all that much. Maybe you got a bull rope in there, maybe you got a chair, but it wasn't what it would become, but it was certainly the building block. So Terry Funk, to me, like you say deathmatch, Texas Deathmatch, and you're going to get more people to say, okay, that's a Terry Funk signature. But again, he was a guy that was at the forefront of FMW and helped put them on the map. He was there for the beginning of ECW to help get, everybody in ECW ready to go and established. When WWF had a hardcore division, who did they want to sort of be, kind of one of the grandfathers or godfathers of the hardcore aesthetic, and we'll certainly talk about his counterpart in a little while. And then WCW, hey, we got a hardcore division in the dying days of WCW. Well, just call the Funker. The Funker will come around, and he'll put himself through the paces and have these wild all over the building brawls, and he'll cave in Norman Smiley's head with a garbage can or a garbage can lid a couple times. And then even the later part of his career, he figured out all right, well, I don't have to take crazy bumps, but I can walk and brawl. And Terry Funk was on a lot of these indie shows, just in the way we talked about Abby. You need somebody to help establish your toughest guy in your company. We can call Terry Funk and we can give him a payday for a weekend, and everybody's gonna shell out for Terry. Chuck, did you ever get a chance to meet Terry or work around him?
One of the great misfortunes of my career was not getting to work with Terry Funk. I did, however, steal more from Terry Funk than probably any wrestler on earth, including his three-quarter moonsault, which never quite went fully over the top. But I always looked at it like this, man. If the Funker's willing to get up there and do an acai moonsault that looks like that, then I should have no shame in the form of mine, and I'm going to get up there with as much. It was about passion, enthusiasm, the best punches in wrestling history.
Yep.
The Funker, like you said, man, he's on this list as number 6, but on most lists for overall wrestling, he's near the damn top. He's easily one of the best salesmen of all time. He drew money everywhere he went. If you had a baby face that needed to get over, you put him in a program with the Funkster, and you had money to be printed, and you had fans coming over the railing and out of their seats. Yeah, Funk's one of the best of all time. I truly, truly wish I had gotten to work with him. I know a lot of my cohorts from the Wild Side days did, and every one of them effusive praise, just like we have, and they said he's as real as they come. So, man, the Funk, easily one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure. Tom?
I mean, you guys have said mostly everything that I could possibly say, but he was the finalist in the first deathmatch tournament ever.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of solidifies his spot on this list in and of itself. If you're the innovator of the modern deathmatch tournament,
oh, for sure, yeah.
And
you're a reason why they put it together. So
yeah, you're the reason why most of these guys that we're talking about have a career.
Yeah. So here we go. We're going with our starting 5. We're down to our top 5 guys. Number 5 on this list, Terry Funk's wrestling soulmate, to a certain extent, the legendary Cactus Jack, and I'm prefacing this, and I'm saying Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack won the King of the Deathmatch tournament. His ascent into pro wrestling was always based on the amount of physical pain he could endure, the brain that he had for inventing spots and inventing. Think about this, the weapons that are used and trotted out every time somebody wants to have a no rules hardcore match. A lot of them came from the warped mind of Mick Foley, a.k.a. Cactus Jack, Thumbtacks, barbed wire baseball bats, the flaming chair, a lot of the stuff was basically like, it was his idea before it was anybody else's. The physical toll that it would take on his body, obviously, like we know that. Even in a Hell in a Cell match, he's getting thrown off the top. He's taking incredible bumps, and he's taking life-altering abuse for the endurement, for the adoration of the fans. So he's the king of the deathmatch for a reason. It's not just, hey, I won a tournament. It is, by God, like Mick Foley's been broken in half, or Mankind, or Cactus Jack. But I do still want to highlight Jack as that persona, because that was such a pivotal guy in 90s hardcore wrestling and deathmatch wrestling, going over to Japan in those Kawasaki baseball stadium, exploding time bomb, bed and nails matches, piranha box matches, stuff like that. Like, he seemed to be game for everything, and has told the tales a million times over that you kind of say to yourself, as we did with a lot of guys that were before him on the list, but I think he's a folk hero in that sense, in the whole, like, hey, I came out on the other side of this, and I was able to be the world heavyweight champion in the biggest box office era of pro wrestling, and I was able to write books, make TV appearances, basically become like the grandfather of pro wrestling that he is right now, after putting his body through a car wash of misery through his career. He's still one of my favorite guys to have been watching in a building. And I never saw like the most hardcore stuff that he ever did, but I've seen many, Cactus Jack Wild Brawls, whether they were at the Meadowlands, whether they were at Madison Square Garden, the ECW Arena, whatever it was. Like, Cactus Jack, I always found him to be extremely fun to watch, and you knew the second that he came out of the curtain, you were going to get your money's worth, because he's going to throw himself any which way but loose. So Cactus definitely is a guy that's on our starting five. I'll turn it over to you, Tom, to talk a little bit about Cactus.
Cactus Jack was the reason that I got into hardcore wrestling. The first match, the first barbed wire match that I ever saw was Terry Funk versus Cactus Jack, not the king of the death matches. It was a no rope barbed wire match in IWA Japan. Mm-hmm. It was in, I don't think it was Corkin Hall. I don't know exactly what venue it was in, but there was maybe 40 to 50 people in this venue. And they had legitimately the best barbed wire match that I've ever seen, still to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that personifies the Cactus Jack character, the Cactus Jack mindset. Mick Foley as Cactus Jack was like, it was almost like he transformed into a different human.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for Cactus Jack, we would have never seen a Mankind. We would have never seen a Dude Love. We would have never seen a Mick Foley.
Yeah.
His willingness to leave a six-figure job to go to Japan and do death matches with Terry Funk and various other people, because he wasn't happy with where he was in his creative endeavors for a television company. That personifies hardcore. That personifies deathmatch wrestling. And that's why Mick Foley is not only one of my favorite wrestlers, one of my favorite humans of all time.
Yeah, yeah. Well deserved for that comparison. So we'll turn it over to Crazy Charlie.
He was genuine. He was authentic. He was believable. He took the term human pincushion and turned it from an insult into something beloved. He rose to the top of the industry. He has one of the greatest promos in the history of the business as Kane Dewey in the Cactus Jack era. As Mankind, he has quite possibly the greatest single bump in the history of the wrestling business. He has done it all, and he's done it with grace, and he's made what we all strive to do. He's been the everyman that made it all seem possible. Cactus Jack, whatever name he goes by, he just made it believable from start to finish, and that's why he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, well said. It's that sort of, like, that's the type of thing. Like, I wherever you are in history, and I think there's a lot of people that have that story of I watched the Cactus Jack match and then I knew I could do pro wrestling, or whether I could do pro wrestling and I want to start training, or whether it's I am going to follow this now because that got your Charlie, you're right. Like, the believability is right on. Basically that's the badge of courage. He's got the believability, and he's got the likability and the everyman appeal. And plus, like, let's not sugarcoat the fact that, like, you're treating your body in these terrible ways, but you're also like his storytelling, even in those death matches, like the way that he sells, the way that he would walk around the ring to get space between him and his opponent, not running away, but like getting separation so that you could let the moment breathe a little bit, and you could also get prepared for what he's going to come back with. That's an art form, and there's sort of like, there's guys that rush through these matches, or guys that are just like, you can tell that they're just like, just, hey, I'm willing to accept the punishment from the weapons that you're going to hit me with, but at a certain point, like, we're just going to have to speed through this. So I don't expect to be out here for 25 minutes. If we could just get this done in 6 or 4, I feel much better about that. So you can tell that there are guys that will put up with that punishment to do it. But then there's the Cactus Jacks of the world. There's that certain someone who's like, I don't want to just make this a fast car crash. I want this to be an epic, like, scene from a movie almost, where you're watching me take endure all this physical pain, and then watching me, when I'm ready to come back, dole out the same pain in the other way to eventually get ourselves to the finish. And that's why, like, if you watch those matches that he had with Funk in Japan for those King of the Deathmatch, like, it's not just, hey, here are these two, like, wily veterans, like, Funk at the, what we thought was the very end of his career, and Jack sort of in his prime. Like, you could see the torches being passed, but you could also see guys that are just like, that have a lot of respect for each other and want each other to be able to come out of this looking better than they did. So they have to tell the story, and they have to set the scenes around it. And I don't think that there's anybody in this list that personifies that as much as Jack did. Maybe Terry Funk a little bit, but I think, like, Cactus Jack certainly has that storytelling first and foremost. The storytelling is at the forefront. So he's in our starting 5. The next guy in our starting 5, Nick fucking Gage. Now, again, for my point of view, he's a guy that's synonymous with this and has been synonymous with it for the last 20 years. When it's become not a go-to, but I think there's, as Tom can attest, like, there's a reverence to it, and there is certainly a cult following that deathmatch wrestling has gotten. And if you have a personality like Nick Gage's, and a real story like Nick Gage's real story about fucked up life away from the ring and a very, a couple of arcs where, this guy was in prison. This guy died in the ring. Like there's so much like mythos behind that and then you still say like, hey, he's still like out there to this day, like doing that and putting his body on the line in that way. There's a ton of respect that comes from it. And I love that the wrestling world, in a larger sense, got a peek at that when he was elevated to do Dark Side of the Ring and tell his story, and also to be part of AEW for that match, that main event match that he had with Jericho back in 2021, I believe it was. So, Tom, I'll start with you about Nick Gage. You certainly have a long history of his involvement with promotions that you went to see live, and you've seen probably him at his best and his worst. So,
yeah, he was part of, like I said earlier, part of the core four of CZW. Mm-hmm. He was like the first guy that they were building around, because the rest of them were deathmatch centric. Mm-hmm. And Gage was one of the guys that could do. He was one of the first I would say hybrid.
Okay. Right.
One of the first like hybrid wrestlers that you would then like later on. There were a ton of guys that would go around with that moniker, like
Moxley for sure, like is one of those types.
Moxley, and guys like Drake Younger and stuff like that, where it's like they dabble in the deathmatch, but if you put them in the ring with the best guy in said promotion, he can go and do a regular match and have a banger. But Gage was the guy that like CZW built its foundation on, because he was the best at what he did, and he went on to be tag team champion with Nate Hatred, had an incredible run as the Hate Club, was a junior heavyweight champion with them, was their world champion, wrestled every major deathmatch wrestler, won every major deathmatch tournament, wrestled in every major deathmatch promotion across the world, and then had his issues with substances. I was there on at Tournament of Death 8, I think it was, when him and Thumbtack Jack had the 200 light tube match, and he had his artery slashed, and they had to medevac him out of DJ Hyde's parents' backyard. And
he was still flipping off the crowd, right? He still had his middle fingers,
So he cut the artery underneath his armpit, and he was wearing a basketball jersey that then turned Michael Jordan jersey that then turned red.
Gee.
He ran to the back because he knew that he was cut bad, and like no one knew what to do. And he was trying to go back out because he was just like, just tape it up and I'll go back out. And then like John, like 10 people just ran out from the back to try and like salvage the main event. And then we just all sat there for like an hour and a half waiting for a helicopter to pick him up because he was like dead.
Yeah.
But a guy that literally died
for art
because he loves fucking deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's how he said he wants to go out. He wants to go out. He's like, kill me in the fucking ring. But and then again, he goes away to jail.
Mm-hmm.
He gets clean. He gets jacked.
Yeah.
He comes back, and he does everything that he did with CZW, with GCW, and then he makes GCW the biggest indie promotion in the country.
Of course, yeah.
And that was on his back. Put on what I would say is the best deathmatch I've ever seen in person against Matt Tremont in a cinder block concrete canvas match, which I don't even know
thank you.
why you would do that. But then gets the dark side of the ring, gets the AEW main event, then has that huge feud with Matt Cardona.
That's right. Yeah.
He made Matt Cardona the indie wrestling darling
in their superstar. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the death match that he did with Nick Gage, he wouldn't have had the credibility with the indie fans. No one wanted to see Zack Ryder on the indies.
No,
if we're going to be honest. But doing that death match with Nick Gage gave him the credibility. Yep. Similar to, as I was saying like earlier, if you bring in Abby to do a death match with somebody, he is now the guy that if you want to get some David Arquette.
Yeah.
They made a fucking documentary on him after that whole situation happened. Yeah. If you want credibility on the indie scene, you see Nick Gage.
It goes through him.
He is the epitome of modern deathmatch wrestling. To me, is Nick Gage.
Very good, Chuck. What's your thoughts? And I'm sure, like when Tommy's describing this this backstage scene where a man is bleeding out during a tournament of death, that kind of makes you say to yourself, "Oof, I'm relieved that I got out of the business in 2001." But Nick Gage, to you.
Nick Gage, the spot during AEW, the pizza cutter spot, first of all, is the most legendary, perhaps couple of seconds in wrestling television where you go from pizza cutter to a Domino's commercial and a company legitimately gets heat with one of its sponsors. Yep. But what I was so proud of in that moment is that AEW let Nick go for it. Yeah. They didn't ask him to do a half-ass version of what he does. They let him go out there and show to the world what he does, and it was magnificent. It secures the legacy, the documentary, the comeback, the second half of the career really, truly cements the legacy. And you said it, Tom, he is right now the best modern deathmatch wrestler out there. He's bringing more attention to it. He's putting more eyeballs on it across the world, and he is that guy at this moment, has been since the GCW run, and it's been awesome to see it continue and carry on through in a division and a class full of charismatic characters. He might have the most charisma of them all, and that is just a wild thought to have.
Yeah, and that's a good element too. Like he's got there's a buzz when you know that's the only match that's left on a show. I've been to GCW a couple times, and he's been main event both. And there's ups and downs, and there's crowd heat and energy, and you got a lot of oh my gods and a lot of like holy shit chants and this is awesome stuff and you're a sick fuck, all that other stuff. But then it's almost like the audience gets that out of their system and then resets.
It's a Pavlovian response at this
and
point.
It's
for whom the bell tolls.
For whom the bell tolls, the chanting,
that's it.
The salutes, singing along with the introduction and getting into that and doing the hate club call and response. Like there's an energy to it, and then the bell's going to ring and you realize, all right, now it's time to go to work. And I think he works in a way where he doesn't have to lean on the tropes of deathmatch wrestling in every single match that he does, but the fact that he's got elements to it show that it's like he knows what his bread and butter is, and he can get through most of the match, in a traditional sense, or even like a hybrid style. But when he wants to go on offense and he wants to start punishing, the switch flips, and then it becomes now you're all in for a real fucking hardcore time, and then it's weapons, it's sense of urgency, it's his pacing of spots is also very deliberate, and And I do think that's what puts him a step above a lot of guys, as I mentioned before, that want to rush through. I think he takes his time and he relishes in the aura that is around him and the charisma, as Chuck said, the charisma that he brings to that performance that really set him in a class that we're talking about him as a dream team starter for the deathmatch / hardcore match guys. Let's move to the third guy that we have on our team, Necro Butcher. One of the more unorthodox guys that if you get a look at Necro Butcher, where he's got the cutoff jean shorts, he almost looks like a demented high school professor, because he's got glasses, he's like Weed Guy Dudley, to a certain extent, Backwoods Dudley, no shoes, the big pot leaf tattoo. Like, you're sort of like, am I taking this guy seriously? He could be like the biggest jobber in the world, but then he's like, when he did start getting over and being this sort of like, I think to me, he's more of the Abbey style, like special attraction guy that everybody had brought in to their indie, and said like, the toughest guy in your company. Now we have the toughest guy that we can bring in, and here comes Necro, and he is just fists and feet fly, and he could take an incredible amount of abuse and still turn around, and he's taking all that abuse in the first 10 minutes of the match, and he still is going to go 30 minutes total, because now it's his time to go on the offense, and like, again, just like a tornado when it comes to hands and fists. That's even before he's taken thumbtacks to the feet, he's taken bed of nail spots, he's taken the spider webs with the barbed wire, flopping into that, and then again, that crazed look never leaves him. So there's elements of Cactus Jack to it, where this sort of like, he's in this like haze almost during a match. There's a little bit of Abdullah or Bruiser Brody that comes alive with him, but then there's also something that's completely unique about Necro and his sort of like, I don't want to say like a Hulk up spot like in his matches, like, but just sort of like this sort of like this energy that he's got when he's turning it on in a match, and he's feeling that crowd energy, and he's dealing with the ohs and the ahs and the you sick fucks and all the chants, and then it powers him on. So I've never seen anything like that match that he had with Samoa Joe from, what was that, 2005?
Yeah, IWA Mid-South, yeah.
IWA Mid-South, and they were in ECW Arena, and it's...
Yeah, they did a doubleheader with CZW.
And it's no...
The best indie match ever.
It's no joke, yeah, and it's so physical, and it's like... And they didn't have to do anything other than hit the fucking shit out of each other, and you're sort of like... This is one of the toughest men in the sport of pro wrestling. Well, actually, reverse. Chuck, do you got anything to drop in for Necro?
Could not take my eyes off of him. The first time I saw Necro, again, all the things you've already kind of accented here, the bare feet, the shabby demeanor, the possessed look, the incredible amount of pain he could just absorb and keep going. But the one where it hooked me, and I saw it duplicated by nearly everybody after I saw it the first time myself, which was, you get two chairs, you set them up right in the middle of the ring, you sit your ass down across from each other, and you just start throwing potatoes. I saw that spot copied, duplicated, poorly done on every show across America after I saw Necro Butcher do that in the middle of the ring. It was iconic on a level that really just like every man out there says, Hell yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to sit down in this chair right across from you face to face and just punch you right in the face as hard as I can. It was truly an iconic spot from a legendary worker. And again, the attraction to him was I just could not stop watching. No matter what he did, I just couldn't stop watching. What is this freak going to do next? And he didn't disappoint, you'd think, oh, for sure Necro Butcher's going to do this thing I've seen him do before, and no, hell no, somehow he spins around, goes upside down, and lands with a giant spike in top of his head. I don't know how the hell he did it, but I'm fascinated by every second of it.
Yeah, that's funny that you brought that spot up, because I didn't really have a way of describing it, but it's
the bar fight. I think that's that's what it's called, is the bar fight. And he was the first person to do it, like you said, and then it was just mimicked by everybody.
In an age where things didn't go viral, he went viral with that spot, and it went around the world and back.
For sure. Tom, you're I'm sure you've been in the building for a few of the Necro bloodbaths and
many of the Necro bloodbaths, but it's so funny because the first time you see him, he's coming out to Freebird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you're you see this guy, he's got a pot leaf tattoo, and you're like, oh, this guy's got to be. I remember the first time I went to a show, a CCW show with my father, and my dad is just like, who the fuck is this homeless guy?
Yeah.
And by the end of the show, he's like, that's my favorite wrestler I've ever seen. Because he just beat, like a guy that, and then not only in the deathmatch world, but then he kind of found his niche. Mm-hmm. He was featured in The Wrestler, and then he transformed into like the more hardcore, the lesser of the two evils when it comes to the deathmatch / hardcore style.
Less ultra violent.
Exactly. And of the CZW Ring of Honor rivalry, one of the only, if not the only, deathmatch guy that was poached from CZW and had a huge run in Ring of Honor.
That was surprising, but it was also sort of like it's eye-opening. It made sense. Yeah.
But like you mentioned the Samoa Joe match, another one, if you haven't seen, which is equally as good, if not better, is his match with Loki from IWA Mid-South. Incredible. Yeah. They went like 30 minutes, and it was just Loki beating the shit out of Necro for 30 minutes. But he was a guy that like I said, he transcended the deathmatch realm. Mm-hmm. Because then they were just like, once he did the Samoa Joe match, there was just like, what random actual worker can we put
who are we going to slot on the other side of the ring? That's funny that you mentioned Key, because Key is, he's such a gentle worker. So
light as a feather.
And he has really just such a I just like behind the scenes. I hear he's got a real laid back demeanor. So
such a welcoming guy.
So believable.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, that's what makes it believable. It's like, all right, well, this whirling dervish of fists and feet is going up against the hardest, the man who wants to be the hardest person in pro wrestling, like physically and emotionally, was what you have with Low Key. So that's a matchup that I gotta search that out and see how that all played out. It's funny that you mentioned that. It's also you said that was IWA Mid-South.
IWA Mid-South. I can't remember the name of the show. It's from 2007.
Is that one of the barn shows, or is that when they were up in?
No, it was
Philly?
It was in Midlothian, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
The main event of that show is Chris Hero versus Milano Collection AT.
Oh, okay.
It's an incredible. If you've ever seen the spot from a ladder match where the guy tries to do a shooting star off the turnbuckle and then just lands back on the turnbuckle?
Yes.
That's the show.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. Botchamania highlight clip. So, but yeah, Necro certainly, he gets all the praise. I think he deserves more love these days. Does he still hang around the indies? And I know he doesn't wrestle, but like, or did he walk away from wrestling?
No, I think he still wants to be in it, but he's had some very hard political stances that have kind of
okay
outsourced him from anyone wanting to be involved with him.
Gotcha. Less said, the better. Okay.
Yeah.
So down to our top two. The guy that we did talk about recently because of his untimely passing, and that's Sabu. I've said this, and I said this when we did our little tribute to Sabu a couple months ago. The guy who, when I saw him on ECW TV, I was like, now I want to pay attention to that show because he's throwing himself around like a pinball and a torpedo. Got the tapes, the best of Sabu in Japan, and saw it was the flaming ropes, which lasted about like 6 minutes until the whole thing got engulfed, where it's Tarzan Goto and Onita versus Sabu and the Sheik, and then through various other spots that he did in matches throughout the early part of his career, where I was like, this is unique. I've never seen anything like this specimen. He goes hand in hand with the Barbed Wire matches. He gets a lot of credit for being the guy that brought tables into pro wrestling as an actual like weapon and as a spot that you were going to do. And I think it's bastardized at this point that like, you can't have a hardcore match or any sort of like, no holds barred stipulation without having a table. So thank you, Sabu, for starting that. And just the whole aura behind Sabu, scars, just a litany of incredible events, matches, spots, whatever it may be, that sort of like put you in this pantheon where you're thought of like, if somebody says, hey, I need to see a match that's got the hardcore element to it and that is high flying. Yep, Sabu is number one. He's the number one guy that you're gonna put in that category. Modern wrestling doesn't exist without Sabu, and I'll go to my grave saying that he's more innovative than anybody gives him credit for. And even when Terry Funk could say like that guy made more wrestling fans in a few years of him blowing up than Terry Funk has made in his whole career. That's a testament where Funker's saying stuff like that. So, yeah, he's in this for sure, and he's a top guy because it's the Mount Rushmore of hardcore wrestling has got Sabu's face on it. So, so Tom, I'll go to you next. Your history and thoughts of Sabu. Again, we don't have to go deep into it because we talked about him as a tribute not too long ago, but give us a little bit of your rationale of Sabu in this conversation.
I would argue that he's the most influential wrestler of the last 50 years.
Okay.
Whether it comes to hardcore, deathmatch, or just wrestling, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He changed the game completely when he came onto the scene in terms of high flying. And then when he got into hardcore wrestling, he did the same there.
Yeah.
That Born to be Wired is still hard to watch to this day. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you literally see two guys that are willing to do whatever it takes to have a good match, and they're just trapped. Like,
that's a good way to put it. They're physically trapped,
scared for their lives.
Yeah.
But they did it in the name of hardcore wrestling.
Yeah.
Again, you go to the match with Sabu and the Sheik versus Onita, and in the fire
Gardo.
match.
Yeah, I mentioned that one before. Yeah.
Trapped.
Yeah.
Like, the guy puts himself in precarious situations because he's willing to do whatever it takes to push the envelope, because it's not about the match itself. Like you said earlier, it's about the mentality.
Of course.
He wants to give you the best of whatever he's going to be a part of. And I think that's what made him not only he's one of my favorites of all time, but of course, one of the greatest wrestlers, hardcore, whatever list you're going to make, Sabu's going to be on it.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's well put. Chuck, did you get a chance to see him?
Yo, I have one to wrap this particular part of the countdown up. Okay. So, first of all, you turned me on to him and make me hip to Sabu 1995. That was one of the reasons we went to ECW. Unfortunately, the Crippler dump by Chris Benoit not long before took Sabu out of action for a while. So when I went to Heatwave 95, we did not actually get to see Sabu in action. But you had already clued me in, told me all about him, so I was all over ECW TV for Sabu. After that, I agree with everything you guys have said. All the respect in the world for the career, for the innovation, for the things that he had done. But I want to take just a slightly different approach to this one and tell you about the 3 nights I spent with Sabu in the professional wrestling world. You know that Sabu recently passed away, but did you know that he was almost killed in 2001 at Bumpers on Highway 441 just outside of Athens, Georgia?
Okay.
Were you aware of this thing?
I've never been to Bumpers.
Oh, well, you see, I happened to be king of Bumpers at that time, and we were running hot house shows once a month there, drawing 400 to 500 people, rednecks, bikers, all the types that would love white trash in a hardcore type setting. It was literally the most bottles you had seen thrown at a chicken wire cage since the Blues Brothers itself. It was truly a roadside attraction. Well, here comes Sabu, and he's going to wrestle at Bumpers as part of a 3-night series of shows with NWA Wildside, part of it being television, this night being a house show. So, unfortunately, one of those biker redneck side of the road attraction types from Georgia decided to hand over a little orange bottle full of I don't know what kind of pills, and neither does anybody else, but Sabu was more than happy to take all of them that afternoon. And when he went out to the ring that night for the main event to wrestle against Air Paris, which was a huge match at that moment in time for our company, Sabu could not execute a single one of his classic spots. As a matter of fact, he tried to do the triple jump moonsault, and we all know you never go back to a failed spot, at least not right away. You work your way back to it. Sabu tried to do the triple jump moonsault 4 consecutive times. And did not hit it on the 4th one either. Finally just gave up, folded the chair up, and rolled out of the ring. When he went to do the Hurricane Rana at the end out of the corner, he completely slipped right off of the worker and went head and neck first like a lawn dart straight down to the canvas, started weirdly tapping his shoulder, and told the referee his neck was broken and the match needed to end right then and there. Obviously, this is not a very satisfied crowd or main event.
No.
At this moment in time, with me being the most over babyface and the hardcore attraction, and everyone being mad at Sabu, they look at me and say, "Trash, go ahead." And they give me a chair and they tell me to go kill Sabu.
Oh, no.
Which I said, Sabu's one of my wrestling heroes. I can't kill Sabu. And they said, go out there and kill Sabu right now. And I went out there and I stood on the stage, and Sabu, for some reason, found third, fourth, or fifth wind in this match and suddenly got up and did the finish of the match out of nowhere after telling the referee the match needed to end because his neck was broken. He goes to the back, runs out the back door because everybody knows what happened now. Runs out the back door, but still has 2 more nights of bookings with us. So the next night is going to be television in Cornelia, Georgia, and Bill Behrens saves the whole bit by saying, for the first time in history, tomorrow night, Sabu will speak.
What?
And that was the selling point of the next night for television. So sold out house. Whatever happened with Sabu, it's swept under the rug because we've come up with a plan that's going to save the whole weekend of Sabu making all this money. Sabu is summoned to the ring to apologize to the Wild Side fans.
Oh no!
Gets a microphone, taps the microphone 2-3 times like the cliche goes, and when he goes to speak, Tank Abbott rushes the ring and breaks Sabu's jaw.
Oh, wow.
Disallowing Sabu to speak for the first time in his wrestling career. It was also Sabu's receipt for what he had done the night before, as Tank Abbott was hired to shoot on Sabu on television, and he did so.
Wow.
Everyone in the locker room just erupts. It was a bigger pop in the locker room than it was in the crowd, which was hilarious because we had all, felt a little let down by one of our wrestling heroes. But as the business goes, he was told that was his receipt, and everybody made good at the end of the night, and Air Paris and Sabu would go on to have a hell of a match that night in the main event, with Sabu doing the old duct tape jaw thing to fake like he had a broken jaw from the Tank Abbott punch. And that is my weekend with Sabu. That's
incredible. That's Tank Abbott being the man to hit him with the shoot punch.
No. Bill Behrens quieted a crowd of 400 bikers and rednecks down by announcing that Sabu would speak in another town the next night. I've never quite seen a save like that, and I was saved from having to kill Sabu at bumpers on Highway 441 just outside of Athens, Georgia.
You could have been just as over as Tank Abbott if you had done it.
Perhaps I could have.
But
then I would have had to be in 3 count during the WCW developmental.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I don't think I wanted to be in 3 count. They already tried to take my shoes off of me and make me a barefoot wrestler, and I said, I will not be a victim of the Von Erich curse. I will not.
That's a wild story, and that's
so again, all respect. I truly do appreciate Sabu, but my weekend with Sabu a little bit different than what I had hoped for as a wrestling fan.
But that's kind of indicative of his spirit too. Like that, you could have a stinker of a match one night where nothing seems to hit and he's off his game, and then the next time that you see him, he's absolutely he's a different person. And he's
when he hits the triple jump moonsault the next night on TV during the main event, goes over the top, goes down through the table in front of the hard cam.
Yeah.
It's the loudest table break and crash I think I've ever heard. The whole crowd erupts, and not a single person other than the couple of us that worked the house show the night before will ever remember the night Sabu didn't have it because, well, he had a little too much fun outside during the day.
Yep. Wonderful. What a story. So we're going to get to our first guy now, and that is the prototypical king of Japanese deathmatch, the innovator of Japanese deathmatch promotions and matches, the mad scientist of some of the most impossible to think of scenarios you could put into a pro wrestling match. That's Atsushi Onita. He's one of a kind. In the same way that Sabu was a guy that I discovered in the 90s on tape, Onita is like hand in hand with him. He was on a lot of those tapes. I had a Best of Onita that was his career. It actually had a couple matches from his run as a tried and true wrestler when he was with All Japan in the early and mid 80s. He was in one of the legendary Tupelo concession stand matches and brawls that were in Memphis, 79, I believe, either 79 or 80. So he's got a long history of being part of this. Created FMW to be his playground, his demented playground. He was the booker. He was the Dusty Rhodes of that territory, where he was in the main event every night, and rivalries were built around the bloodshed that he would have in matches, and the fierce rivalries that he would have with everybody that came through. The iconic leather jacket and smoking cigarettes, and being cool, American cool, in that sense. And he's retired. He's just like Terry Funk. He's retired 7,000 times, and tends to figure out a way to come back every single. If you need, fly him in for a WrestleCon weekend, and here he is, like in an 8-man match, and barely gets like one tag, but he's still wearing his leather jacket and participating, and throws his chops and swings his chair, and maybe will fireball you. But there's nobody like, and the crowds that they had in FMW were not quiet like they are traditionally with their pro wrestling. And the chants of Onita and the oohs and the ahs from that crowd I can still hear them anytime that I imagine an Onita match. Like you've never seen anybody. So like he's the inventor of a lot of the style, and he is synonymous with it, and he has to be in the conversation as one of the best to ever have done it. Even as a limited in-ring guy, because he did have a lot of injuries in the early part of his career. I think he did have a broken neck at one point too, ironically enough. So that's why he had to pivot his style to be this sort of this crazy man, this wild man persona. So I'll turn it over to Tom. Onita, thoughts?
Much like I said about Zandig earlier, with the innovation of current deathmatch wrestling in America, I would say that Onita is the innovator of deathmatch wrestling, period. Mm-hmm. If you look at the stuff that FMW, whether good or bad, and when I'm talking about him and Zandig, it also fits with their in-ring style as well. Not the most talented guy, but the most over guy.
Oh, yeah.
The guy, the things that FMW was doing, a lot of which didn't work, but a lot of which are legendary. The exploding barbed wire cages, the exploding barbed wire matches.
Time bombs,
The time bomb matches. But then you have like the island death matches. You have the piranha death matches. You have the
I think they had tarantula boxes, barracudas.
But they had the show where the whole ring was in the middle of like a pool, in the middle of like a river. Mm-hmm. And if you got thrown in the river, there was like explosions that were. Yeah. It was just like, and whether it works or it doesn't, that's outside the box thinking. You're trying to do something. You're innovating. You're doing something different. That's what FMW was to the rest of Japanese wrestling at that time.
Yeah.
And to the rest of wrestling in general, it was outside the box, and they were doing things that nobody else was doing. And a lot of hardcore wrestling in America and deathmatch wrestling in America can all be traced back to Onita.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for Onita, I don't know that we would have gotten to the point that we've gotten to now with the hardcore stuff. And I mean, a lot of guys with a limited skill set owe their careers to Onita because if you're able to do certain things in the ring with weapons or a certain style, you can make a living doing this. And I think that he's the Mount Rushmore. He's the George Washington of the style that we're talking about today.
Yeah. Very good. Very good wrap up, Chuck. We'll let you finish this one off with your thoughts on Mr. Atsushi Onita.
I'm not going to add too much because, Tom, that was an incredibly well said summary of who we're talking about. But I just want to add this to it. He's the hero of everyone we've talked about on this list. Yeah. He is the beginning. He's the end. He is the story. None of this episode exists without the man we're discussing right now, without the madness that took place in that man's mind. And again, I love that you said whether it worked or whether it didn't, it inspired an entire generation of wrestlers and humans to take on the next crazy ass task and feat. And all right, fine, I'll throw myself into 1,000 mouse traps. Fine, I'll do this because I had that tape. I saw it. We were all scouring the same VHS tapes. I didn't understand a damn thing I was hearing, but I still had it turned up to like 85 on my TV because it was so fucking exciting.
Yeah.
And that was it, man. You got the tape, you turned it up as high as you could, and you sat there and were fascinated. And then, if you were like me, you tried to find things in there you could steal, borrow, duplicate, pay homage to, and that was it, man. When all of my heroes point to the same guy and say, that's the guy that inspired me, well, how can I sit here and say how much I loved Sabu's in-ring and Terry Funk and Cactus Jack and Gage and all these guys? It all points back to the same person. It all points back to the number one on the list.
Yeah, that's well put, and that's a fine point to sort of wrap this up. And of course, like, if Onita listens to this podcast, which, of course he does,
then he will ask you for money.
He'll ask you. I was going to say he'll ask you for money, and he'll also say
immediately ask you for money and say, if you just send me a couple of $100, I will send you a booking and an airline ticket somewhere in the future.
Thank you, Dropkick son. Thank you for putting me over. I am the greatest.
Yes.
That would be. Would
you like to have an exploding podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your next podcast.
The answer is yes, always. Yes, always.
Weirdly, guys, I got a box of like C4 explosives and a barbed wire. It's a frisbee and barbed wire. I think he's sending me a message. But yeah, no, he's the innovator and the crazy mind that sort of like set people on this path. So, great list. Got a lot of points in there. Thanks, Chuck, again for participating in this one.
Thank you so much.
The stories are perfect for the setting. It's great that you had interactions with a handful of guys that made this list, and certainly an asset to us and our storytelling of this. Just one more time, just like we did in the last episode, just give the folks a little bit of a peek into where they can find you on the internet and what you're looking to do. I guess once the fall starts and the late part of the summer here, different events and opportunities you got going on. So, Plug away.
Renegades of Puck, everywhere on social media. The most important thing is YouTube, trying to build up that audience so that I can make something to the next phase. Year 30 is coming up for my broadcasting career. It's time to pivot to a whole new thing, and I can't wait to start telling those stories. I am quickly disassembling my old studio and building a brand new one. I'm pivoting to a whole new thing. Episode 1000 of my podcast will be celebrated live here in about 2 weeks at Tailgate Brewery in South Nashville. I know none of you are going to be here and in person, but hell, if you have a friend in Tennessee, text them, let them know that there's something cool going on, and it's all ages, it's free admission, and we're even going to have our own beer on tap right there. So we're talking hockey, we're telling stories, we're having a good time, and we're bringing the no half step and jam. So that's all we're doing down here, Double M.
Perfect. Well, you're an asset to our team as a valued guest. We look forward to having you on future episodes when we have the right topics and we need a perspective such as yours. So it is a debt of gratitude for spending some time with us now, 2 episodes in a row, participating with us on our end of things. So thanks again for working with myself and Tom on our side, and on behalf of Tom, this is Mike Madden. We hope you guys have a great night, and we will see you at the matches.